Welcome and thank you for joining Aaj Kal America. I'm Inderjit Kalirai, Indy for some people. On Aaj Kal America, we try to cover the current affairs of America yesterday, America today, and America tomorrow. And right now, technically across the nation and specifically across California, Proposition 50 is a very hot topic. We've talked to a few people who want to advise us that we should vote yes on Proposition 50. Today, we're going to talk to Lisa Moreno. She's active in the Central Valley conservative politics. She served a few terms in leadership there. But today we're joined with Lisa Moreno, who's going to tell us more about herself, and then we'll talk about Proposition 50. Welcome to Aaj Kal America, Lisa. And we're going to be talking about Proposition 50. But before we go there, could you educate us, inform us about Lisa Moreno?
To speak to your audience and to the community. My name is Lisa Moreno. I am originally from Fresno, California, born and raised in the Valley, the Central Valley. I ran for election for the state party as regional vice chair for 2 terms, 2 cycles. Gratefully, I am that I was able to serve and at that level, at the executive board level for the Republican Party in the state of California, I held this position for 2 terms. This position encompasses 11 counties.
As we know, Proposition 50 is a fairly hot topic. It's on our radar for November 4th. Our legislature has worked on writing this up and giving us a special election come November. For the brief history that I know, is that it centers around an issue which apparently Texas created and President Trump created. I've heard various portions of this. At the very high level, it appears that it wasn't President Trump who specifically told the Texas governor to redistrict his state. It appears it's a civil rights issue, and this is more of a judicial branch issue that came to face Texas, and Texas is addressing it. So, could you give us a bit of insight onto that?
So, with respect to Texas, there have been difficulties in the agreement of where to draw the lines, where the boundaries are for different races in the state of Texas. This has been something that's been tried to be addressed for years, and now that the state of Texas has decided to address the issue and put an answer to the issue, resolve the issue with amicable, agreed upon lines for races in the state of Texas, it has caused a reflex reaction in the state of California by the current governor, Gavin Newsom. So at the end of the day, the most important thing that I relate to what is happening in Texas and how Texas is responding to their, like you just mentioned, the judicial action that needs to be taken for them to have their voters represented equitably and equally throughout the state of Texas is in Texas. However, our governor in the state of California has now looked at Texas and said, well, I don't agree with what you're doing in Texas. And as a reaction to what's happening in Texas, now California is responding to a state that we are not in, that it is not our battle to fight. It is not our issue in the judicial system, in the courts to deal with, because we do not live in Texas, we live in California. So in response to those efforts and those actions, as you well stated, by the state of Texas, the state of California through the governor, we have now embarked on a tit for tat. So you do this in Texas, so we will do this in California. Now, the most important thing to remember is California has a voter-approved election system with districting. And this is not started a year ago. We go back to the Voters First Act in 2008 that was then expanded in 2010. And this included congressional district drawing of lines. So we have the California voters that have approved a process in California and has approved a independent citizens redistricting commission that was voted on and approved by the voters of California. It's an independent commission, and it has 14 citizens, 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, and 4 non-affiliated. So you have 14 members that make up this district commission, and they go through a very rigorous process to include public comment so that California voters can give their input across the state on where lines should be drawn for different races. So we've gone from a state not our own in Texas to dealing with it now affecting Californians, and the voting rights of Californians are being dismissed and not accounted for, and made less of a voice when our governor chooses to say, I don't agree with what's happening in another state, so let me take it upon myself in this state to change our process. And this is why I submit to your community and to your voters to really look into the details of this unafraid. If you read up on it, if you do the research, and you go to your community leaders and you ask, is this fair to California voters? That's the big question. Not is it fair to the Trump administration, not is it fair to Texas, not is it fair to Gavin Newsom. We are a casualty of the decision-making process of Governor Gavin Newsom. We are the affected voters in our state. So when we think about how we manage our home is managed by our head of household and our parents in our home. And if a household in another city is doing what they choose to do, our household runs by us. But Gavin Newsom has taken it upon himself to say, no, I'm going to change Californians' right to vote, how they vote, who they vote for by what's happening in Texas. So when you think about it, the state already voted very, very resoundingly on how to draw lines. This is not something we're just drumming up and pulling out of thin air. It's already there. It's a process. Everyone participates in the process. And the reason a no vote is requested by your community and your audience to entertain is, regardless of which way you vote, whether you're an independent, a Republican, or a Democrat, your vote is less. If this proposition goes through, it will temporarily override the current commission, the redistricting commission by the citizens, for not only 2026, but 2028 and 2030. So this doesn't just affect one election, it affects multiple elections. That's number one. Number two, who drew the lines that Governor Gavin Newsom is proposing, the lines that he wants to be changed? Who drew them? Who decided that that entity would draw these new lines? It's not the citizens. It's not the Commission of Independent Citizens that was voted on by the Californians. It is members that were chosen not by citizens, but by others. We'll say kindly by our governor or the others that are in favor of this proposition. And those lines will be made up by them and enforced by them, not by the voters. So if you are a voter, your vote will not be a vote of, this is my choice, I'm going to vote for a Democrat or a Republican or an independent. The lines will favor the outcome that Gavin Newsom wants. So if there is an area in California and Gavin Newsom sees, there's this many Republicans, this many Democrats, this many independents, I don't like how many Republicans or independents are in this district. I'm going to redraw the line so there's more Democrats in this district or independents. Who knows, right? And so regardless of how a person votes, their power of their one vote is less. Because now if you have a district where it's 75% Democrat, for example, and the remaining 25% is Republican and independent, how likely is it that anyone can win that's not a Democrat, for example? And the vice versa. If you have a district that's 95% Republican, How likely is it that a Democrat can win or an independent can win? This is why we have a commission in the state of California, an independent citizens commission that has been voted upon, that goes through a very lengthy, rigorous process to say, okay, how can we make each of these areas fair, as much as fair as possible, for everyone to have an opportunity, equal opportunity for votes, equal opportunity for candidates that want to run for office. This minimizes that and puts in a basket or a category that if you're not of a certain party, you will definitely have very little to no opportunity to win that district in California, not in
And
Texas.
right, thank you. Um, so basically, then, your analogy of a household, it's my immediate reaction was, okay, this is trying to keep up with the Joneses. So our governor is telling us that because Texas is buying a brand new BMW and they're financing it, we have to do the same thing, but we have to compensate. We're not going to get a BMW, we're going to get a Lexus or something similar, but we have to keep up with them just to compensate. Not a political analogy, but that's what it seems to be like. The Joneses are doing it, therefore we must do something to compensate, and because we got to keep a balance in the neighborhood. Uh, on this Proposition 50 that's coming up in November 4th, the legislature has passed it, and you've basically said that it's not only the 26 election this will impact, but it will also impact 28 and 30. So the next three election cycles, and if I'm correct, in what I heard, then this is only going to impact the congressional election, not the local legislature in California or the local city councils or the local supervisorial districts. So whoever we send to Washington D.C. as a representative to Congress is who this impacts, and the effort is Texas is going to get these 5 seats because they're cheating, gerrymandering. Then we have to do the same thing. We have to cheat and we have to gerrymander, but they're going to get Republican seats, so we have to compensate to get Democrat seats. Um, Knowing that this is going to impact us all the way through to 2030, is it likely that within those next three election cycles, we are in a majority Democrat state, that the legislature come 26 or after the 26 legislative elections, they propose that we're going to make this process the permanent process and not do away with the Citizens Commission?
Well, first of all, you're absolutely right with the analogy of the Joneses. And not only is it the same that someone else is driving a BMW, so I have to drive a Lexus now. It's not only that. It's also the fact that you're not even asked. You have to buy that Lexus, whether you have money or not, whether you like it or not, whether you like the color of the car or not, whether you want an electric vehicle or not. You don't have a choice. This is what you're given. This is what you're going to do. So the voice of the people, the voice of a voter, is non-existent when you're told that you have to do something. Otherwise, what's the purpose of vote? That's number one. Number two, before I steer away from that, where does this end? If something is happening in Texas and we have a California governor that's reacting to whatever is happening in Texas, what is to not say that another state react to Gavin Newsom's behavior and does their redistricting in favor of their party, which may be the Republican Party? Where does this end? How do we continue to involve ourselves in chaos and madness when it comes to fair elections? And lastly, until the next census is done in 2030, yes, I do believe that because, and this is something that's very important, and I think that as a California voter, regardless of where you vote, as far as your political likeness, whether you're an independent, whether you're a moderate Republican or a moderate Democrat or no party affiliation, we well know that the state of California is dominated in Sacramento by Democrats. That's number one. Because of that, yes, I agree with you. What is to say that this would not become a permanent fixture, a permanent way of practicing in the future. When you have any state, regardless if it's California or Texas or Wisconsin or any other state, when you have a majority party rule in any state, the likelihood of anything benefiting everyone is less. For example, every year at the turn of the year, you have so many new laws, so many new changes, because it's upwards of into the hundreds and hundreds that Sacramento changes and impose on Californians because it's a dominated legislature by the Democrats. Wouldn't it be beautiful if we had a legislature in Sacramento that was, I'm not going to say that it has to favor either party, but that there be discussions, that there be conversations. What's best for Los Angeles may not be the same for Fresno. What's best for Sacramento may not be the best for San Francisco, but it's across the board when you have a dominant party for decades. It has been decades since a Republican has won a statewide seat in the state of California. Decades. That's a problem because when you have a one party rule in a state, it's not, we will suggest to the voters that we do this because you have no conversation. There's not enough independents or Republicans to say to a Democrat legislature, hold on. We don't feel that that's the best for this community or for this demographic. It doesn't matter. What they say will rule and dominate. And lastly, when you have that type of a process, it doesn't surprise us that you have a governor that is imposing, in my opinion, this is imposition of the will of the governor, not a vote to the people. It's imposing when they come up with a reaction to another state's behavior. Why? How does that benefit California? The first question, if I had 1 minute with Governor Gavin Newsom, I would say, Governor Newsom, how does your proposition benefit Californians specifically? What is in it for a Californian, whether it be you or me or anybody across the state? How does your proposition that is costing a lot of money, millions to put on the ballot in November, our tax paying millions, right? How does that benefit most Californians? I would love to hear the answer. How does that benefit Californians? Not Texans and not anybody else, but your tax paying dollars and mine.
Right. And we get the picture that sort of it's only going to be influencing at this particular time the congressional seats. And yes, how is it helping California or how does it address the citizens? Based on some what you were saying about the decades since we've had a different color of politician, if that's the right word, to represent some of the other side of California, it's quite apparent that at least for this century, we've seen California with a majority, uh, supermajority in the California legislature. Because there's a supermajority and there's no need for the two-thirds vote or anything of that, which was at one point a check and balance. If we go back to the Willie Brown days and Pete Wilson, we had checks and balance because the legislature had some sort of a balance. Willie Brown couldn't do everything because he didn't have 60% of the votes. Pete Wilson couldn't do everything because he had to at least go through Willie Brown. Um, we don't have that anymore. What we have is a Democratic majority in the California Senate. We have a Democrat majority in the Assembly, and these are super majorities. And so long as those three people agree, it's going to happen. And currently, the common enemy number one is Trump. So whatever we want to do that we can show hurts Trump or that we're standing up to this public enemy number one, then California is all behind us. Never mind the independents or the Republicans who may disagree with us. We've got the majority. We're going to do it. And that's what we're hearing. And that is the foundation for the question as to what if come 26 we have a new governor. What is stopping the new governor and the new legislature from pushing this even a stage further, saying, hey, California reelected us. We have the same or a better majority. or it's gone down a little bit, but we still can claim supermajority, and therefore we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it in the future where we have these lines which favor us, and come the 2030 election and the 28, we have an even greater chance. So what I heard from you is that that is very possible, because politics is very fluid and it goes with whatever the flavor of the month is. Does Proposition 50 impact normal Joe walking down the street, going to work, and paying his taxes and doing his normal daily routines? Is it likely that there will be an impact on the average Californian?
Absolutely, you said it so eloquently well. Uh, you hit it right on the head. Number one, checks and balances. There is no checks and balance in California. It is exactly majority rule. Again, we impose. You go for the ride because you have no say. So we are the majority. We will do as we will, regardless if you like it or not. Number one. Number two, absolutely. Does this impact the average person that woke up this morning, took their children to their mother or their father or their grandparent or their aunt or their uncle to take care of their toddler while they went to work 8, 10, or 12 hours a day? Does it impact that driver that leaves their home today and has to traverse across the country and not see their family for a week? Does it impact the average worker that wakes up every day, does the right thing, goes to work, sacrifices this bill for that bill to make ends meet? Absolutely. It impacts you, it impacts me. Why? Because we are the average person waking up every day, doing the right thing, following the law, working hard, and we are told by a governor and or a state dominated legislature, this is how we're going to spend your money because we say so. This is how we're going to make this law because we say so. This is how we're going to conduct business because we say so. If you live in California and you are a Californian, you are impacted by the homelessness. When you walk out of your home, you grab your child or your grandchild a little bit more closer as you're walking into a store or a mall because there's someone on the floor, either defecating, vomiting, or doing some type of a behavior that you don't want your children to see. If you have a teenage daughter, this affects your teenage daughter because when she goes to school and she has to dress in her gym locker room or undress, a young boy thinks today, I'm going to be a girl. I have the right to go into the gym locker room and be a girl. As a biological male, I feel like today I am a girl. That affects the average young girl in the locker room. So every single decision that comes from our leadership, and I agree with you, every decision that comes from President Trump to Governor Gavin Newsom, to your city mayor, every decision is affected by your vote. So while we can pinpoint, well, Gavin Newsom is doing this because Texas is doing that, you and I don't live in Texas. You and I woke up today, we're going to work, we're taking our children to school with the trust that they will be treated with respect and dignity and not have to, a young girl doesn't have to be seen by a young boy calling himself a girl in the locker room. That affects our children. That our children go to a school and they get to be told, if you're 5 or 6 or 7 or you're in elementary age and you're in a classroom, let me show you that today if you're a boy, it's okay if you're a girl tomorrow. The minds of children are being affected. Community, tradition, household, family. We work hard. We want to just go to work, earn a living, buy a home, live the American dream, raise our families to the best of our ability. And we all know that our communities are hardworking, respectful, and law-abiding citizens. How does homelessness and violence in our state help our family? It doesn't. It increases our taxes in more than one way. And when we look at it at the end of the day, we say to ourselves, is this the state that I want my children to live in forever when I'm gone? Do I feel comfortable with that? Yes, it affects every single person at every single level, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a business owner. Business owners, that's a whole different category. How many businesses have we lost to the state, leaving the state because of the lack of business friendliness of our governor? When we say, oh, this is in Texas, it doesn't affect us, it affects us on so many levels. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent. If you are a California voter, This will affect you dramatically because, as you will see, despite the efforts of other candidates, whether they're independent or Republican, trying to equal out the balance of power unsuccessfully, unfortunately, more often than not, when you have a dominant party rule, there is no equality. There is no voice for anyone else. And unfortunately, I will say I was on one of the committees at the state party level, the Republican state party level, on initiatives. And I was on that committee for 2 cycles. When I was on that committee, I may submit to you that our recommendations to the voters, we put out our recommendations for all propositions and initiatives. We went through a rigorous process. I sat on a committee for 2 terms where they brought those in favor of a proposition or an initiative and those against. We listened to the pros and the cons. We then submitted our recommendations on our platform, the Republican platform, to the voters of California. Above 70% of the voters in California agreed with our recommendations. If you have above 70% of the voters looking at our recommendations as a Republican Party, you and I both know there is not 70% voter registration of Republicans in the state. But we are a group of individuals that want the best for families, for small businesses, and for the success of our generations to come. Our young generations look to us for guidance. Do we live in the world of? Do we live in California, a safe, peaceful, business, prosperous environment, or are we seeing California being a California that we all wonder, is this where we need to be today? Can't we do better?
Right. And the comments that you made on the supermajority and the influences, as we discussed earlier, Proposition 36 brings into the forefront of what we just talked about, how people voted. Proposition 36 passed with a significant vote. The California populace wants to address the issue of crime, and it had really become out of hand. But as we've witnessed, the legislature and our governor have decided not to fund Proposition 36. So even as we, the people, decided Proposition 36 was something we wanted, the legislature, the political powers that we voted into the California legislature, have told us that we really don't know anything, and they feel they don't have to fund Proposition 36, so it's basically ineffective. But I think that you brought in a lot of topics that I would like to take another session with you. So we'll discuss that offline. But I want to thank you for your insight and discussion on Proposition 50. And as we close up, um, I think I know what your answer is, but to the voters on November 4th, what is Lisa Moreno's advice?
The best is to vote no on Prop 50 so that your voice can be heard loud and clear that despite a majority and despite the imposition of the governor's will to affect California, that will not happen because your voice is stronger. If as many of us believe in our right to vote and the best for our families, that's how we overcome this dictatorship, if I can say it even that way, this overwhelming majority of the will of the governor and the legislature to say, yes, despite you voting this way on Prop 36, we're not going to do it. We don't care what you say. We're going to do our will. You know, why do you ask the voters for their vote if you don't respect their answer? Let's make this answer a loud no so that we send a message loud and clear to the governor. We are tired of not being heard. We are tired of you not respecting our will. A resounding no will let the legislature and the governor, our leadership, know that we do care about our family, our communities, and we want the best for our communities and our families.
Thank you very much, Lisa. I appreciate your time and your input into sort of Proposition 50. We know more than we did when we started. I hope the audience feels the same. And until we have another discussion, I want to thank you for your time and joining with us today. Thank you for watching Aaj Kal America, hosted by Sanjhi Soch TV. I'm Inderjit Kalirai. Until next time, enjoy, have a safe whatever you're doing, enjoy your weekend. That's what's coming up. Until we meet again, thank you very much.